Hey ETAers, breaking news in the Every.Thing.After studio. It is new Counting Crows Music Day with the band's first full LP release since 2014's Somewhere Under Wonderland. The Crows have released Butter Miracle, the complete suites with 5 new songs, joined by 4 songs released in a Sweet One preview back in 2021. This is the band's 8th full-length studio album since they debuted in 1993 with August and Everything After. For more on why this is a banner day in the ETA studio, listen to this chat I had with my wife and fellow crowhead Christy, where we talk about the new music, our introduction to the band, and some of our favorite stories from following them on tour since the mid-90s. Joining me in the studio now is my wife Christy. Say hi, Christy.
Hi.
Hi. So, I kind of twisted her arm to be here. Blink twice if you need someone to come and rescue you.
I'm blinking. Rapid blinking.
But I wanted Chris to come on and talk a little bit about Counting Crows. You're a fan of Counting Crows, wouldn't you say? It's not something that that I forced you into, is it?
Forced me into back in like 1995.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think when we met, you were listening to it on your own, though, weren't you?
I was actually this is too much information, but I moved to the United States and I got in the mail one of those. What is it called? Columbia House subscriptions.
Yeah.
I got one for cassette tapes, and I picked Counting Crows. Of course, is one of my 10. Or whatever. Okay. I forget how it worked out. And you choose 10, get 10 free ones, and then pay for after that or something. So my first Counting Crows, I had a tape. I had a cassette tape.
Oh, you're dating us now because
I know.
That was 93 cassette tape still.
Yes, that was 93. That was when I did that when we moved. Yes.
Yeah, I think I had a CD player by then. I always joke that Canada was like a decade behind the United States.
I was just a decade behind.
But yeah, that Columbia House thing. Wow.
Do you remember?
I remember that. I signed up for it because what a scam that was. Because they can sign up for it. You get like 10 albums for a penny. And then they'd mail them to you. And it was like, yeah, of course you're going to do that. You're going to get 10 CDs for a penny. Like, why wouldn't you do that? But then then you'd get stuck in it and you'd forget about it. And like you wouldn't make your selection because you have to make your selection every month. And if you didn't make it at a certain time, they just send you whatever crap album was like the album of the month. I know one month I got like Terrence Trent D'Arby or something like that. I was like, what the hell is this? And then after that, I think I had to try to cancel it because it was just like, because then you had to pay like full price. And I think even the full price was like more than what you'd have to pay in a store.
Yes.
So it was totally a scam.
Right. And you're 15 and your parents are like, you don't want to do this, but you're like, no, I'll pay for it every month or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course they did they did it with a lot of stuff back then. They had like a Disney movie club too. And they would try to get you with that one.
Right.
And it was like you could get like 10 Disney movies for like a penny or something.
That's right. I remember it was so fun getting the little stickers or whatever and like picking them and like, licking and sticking them and choosing which movies.
Yeah, I did that one too, I think. And of course the part of the scam back then was like Disney movies, like they'd only be out for like a certain period of time. Like you could buy them for like, they would be like, oh, they're coming out of the vault. And you could buy them for like a few weeks. And then they'd be like, oh, they're going back in the vault. So you didn't buy them. You got to wait till they come out of the vault again or something.
That's
was like
right.
a whole big scam. Like none of that exists anymore, I don't think.
Oh my gosh. That's
We're getting off track here.
We went down another rabbit hole. Totally. I don't know what we went down.
We were talking about Counting Crows. And
right. Yes.
When we met in college, you had just come to the United States. We met in college. You had a cassette tape of August and Everything After their first album in 1993. In August and Everything After. And I believe I had it on CD by then. And I think shortly after that, I had one of those. I feel like freshman or sophomore year of college, I got a really kind of cheap off-brand pod, but it was an MP3 player. And I loaded it up with a bunch of Counting Crows and a bunch of other stuff. But we saw our first Counting Crows concert, I think, in 95. Is that right?
I think it might have been 96.
Was it 96?
In
Okay.
Columbus.
Columbus. Yeah. Yeah.
It might have been that summer because we were outside at
Okay.
I think at the time, Polaris Amphitheater.
Polaris Amphitheater. Yeah. Yeah. That was a good place to see a concert. I think it's called the Gemini or something like that,
It's
or
something different now, yeah.
it's called
And I
something
think
else.
the Wallflowers opened for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Jacob
That's cool.
Dylan and the Wallflowers. That's right.
And
And
I got a shirt from that concert, and I remember going back to Marshall, and there was someone who loved Counting Crows, and she gave me again a tape. It was like our first bootleg with all
oh yeah.
these songs. And then
Oh
after that,
man.
you had like CD bootlegs, but
I was obsessed with bootlegs like in college,
yes,
like especially for Counting Crow stuff, but I had a few for other bands too. But yeah, back then, like, because it was that's where you got the rarities and stuff,
yes,
like the stuff that like wasn't like released on a studio album, like it was like concert recordings, and it was like, like rare stuff they'd done in the studio but not released and everything like that. And it was just it was intoxicating because it was like, oh my gosh, like we're not supposed to be listening to this, but somehow we are. Like it exists somewhere and someone has found it and put it on like an MP3 or something, or they've burnt. They back then, lots of people were burning CDs and stuff. That was a big thing back then in the
right,
'90s. People were making those. It wasn't
right,
mixtapes anymore, but they were like doing the CDRs, like burning
yes,
CDs,
right,
and then they'd sell them. They'd sell these bootlegs on like eBay or something like that, and they'd like
yeah.
mark them up really high too.
That's
But
how you got them. That's right,
I couldn't resist. Like I was buying these things left and right. I have a big
right.
stack of them.
It's like
Actually,
collecting
like
rarities.
right
Yeah,
over there on the shelf, I have a stack of like these bootleg CDs that I collected. Most of them from Counting Crows, but
yeah.
you can find all that stuff now. Like if you like everything that's on there, pretty much. Like if you look it up on YouTube, a lot of it. And I think the band even has like they have a sort of a streaming page where you can go back and like scroll through their archives of like all their concerts and listen to all these
Oh,
like live recordings of their concerts and stuff. So
that's cool. That's really
people,
cool too with Counting Crows, maybe with other bands as well. But like I know you love, especially listening to them live because they'll insert other songs or do completely different variations of
yeah.
songs. So it's so cool to hear them at different concerts.
Well, I mean that's the thing. Like I was a fan, of course. Like I listened to that August and Everything After album, like on loop. And I I was kind of a dork about it because I had the CD, and if you look at the liner, like you get the little booklet in the front of the CD, and it's got like it had the lyrics in it and stuff. So like I was the nerd who like took the liner notes out and like underlined things that were like especially poignant for me and stuff. It was like, oh, look how cool I am because like I'm like
I don't know if
underlining and
I knew that you
highlighting,
did that.
underlining and highlighting different lyrics and stuff like that. It was like so cool stuff.
That
Like,
was the great thing though about like albums and CDs and cassette tapes because yeah, you could read to pull it out and then read the lyrics.
yeah,
It was just so fun to do that. I mean, now you can just look it up on your phone, but I don't know, it was kind of cool. You get your tape and
yeah,
then you open it up and read the lyrics. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and with the MP3s and stuff, and and then I wasn't like buying the bootlegs as much anymore as I was just like trying to download stuff. Like I was in like I did the Napster and all that stuff too.
Oh, right.
Um,
Oh,
but I remember there was a thing about Counting Crows fans, and there still is. Like there's just like it's just such a community and stuff where people just kind of look out for each other and stuff. There's a lot of bands like that, but it's definitely been the case with the Crows. And I know that sort of maybe one of the more poignant or whatever, I use that word again, moments that we had with other Counting Crows fans was when we drove down, drove 10 hours or something like that to Myrtle Beach to watch them
yes.
play at the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach.
Yes.
And it was like just before like 9/11 happened, right?
Right. I'm thinking it must have been around Labor Day weekend,
Yeah.
right?
And like, we
And
didn't like, it wasn't a vacation or anything like that.
we
We were
didn't
like
even go to the
literally,
beach, I don't think.
we just
But we were at
literally
Myrtle
drove.
Beach.
We literally drove like 10 hours just to see them at the House of Blues
Right.
in Myrtle Beach, and then just drove back. It's like, that's
Yeah.
something we could do because we were like in our 20s or something, and that's something we could do. We can do that now probably, but I don't know. I might try, but it would be harder to do now. But yeah, no, we lined up outside the doors before it opened because it was like standing room only. Like, we didn't have assigned seats. We were just going to get as close as we could to the stage. And we met up with a couple of ladies that were older than us, and we just started talking about the band and everything, sort of how they had come to to be fans and things like that. And of course, I started talking about all my bootlegs, like proudly, like I have all this stuff that you've never heard, And I'm like, oh, it's just so good. Like, they're so good in concert. Like, you have to hear them live, and like, if you could get these bootlegs, and we kind of made friends with them in the 30 or 40 or whatever, maybe an hour that we stood in line before the doors opened,
Right.
and exchanged addresses so that I could send them like a CDR of like some of my favorite bootleg songs. And
Right. Probably
so
on
we
pieces
did.
of paper. We probably didn't have cell phones then.
That's right. Yeah, I think they just wrote it down on a scrap of paper or something. And then I just stuck a like CD in the mail and sent it to them. And then like some weeks later, again, right before 9/11, we get a package back in the mail, and it's like a tin of like homemade cookies or something, right?
Right. I feel like, was it after 9/11? Because they had sent it, and I wish I could still find like the card or something. There was something about that. Like, I think 9/11 had happened, and they had wanted to thank us, and it was just also about how everything was so crazy and scary in the world, but they just still think back, like how nice, like the kindness of people, and they just wanted to make us these cookies and send them to us.
Oh,
But
right, right.
I think it was after 9/11, but before it got, like, remember something was sent in the mail, not
Oh, right.
not anthrax, but something like that. Like, they wouldn't have been able to have sent it. Probably it would have.
Like right on the cusp of like everything sort of changing, like all the
Yes.
restriction and everything going into place.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like right before like it became like impossible to get through airport
Yeah.
security, and like you had to take off your shoes, and you can like all the mail. Yeah, it was being
Right. Was
extremely
being
scrutinized and stuff.
right. Right.
Yeah,
And it was just, yeah, I think it was just like a plastic, yeah, container full of chocolate chip cookies, and it was great. And it was a bunch of them. Like, we ate them for a while, and it was
yeah.
just like kindness, just those little things that I don't know. I don't think I would mail anyone cookies right now.
No,
So it was just, yeah, Counting Crows fans are just really, yeah, yeah, they're great. I don't think I was trying to think if we've ever. That's my favorite memory too, for sure.
yeah.
And I was trying to think if we've ever had a bad experience with a Counting Crows fan. And all I can think of, I don't know if it was that same concert or another one. And there was this guy, and it was fine. I don't know if he was jealous or what, but we got to meet Adam afterward, and this other fan took our picture. I've got to find it too, but didn't he like really zoom in, and it's just Adam, and it's like half of each of our faces? Like, there
Yeah,
wasn't a full
yeah.
picture of the
Like
three of us.
fully like cut
Like,
our heads off or something in the
yes, like it
picture.
must have been purposeful.
Yeah.
Like, he
Well, of
had to have
course.
zoomed in.
Yeah, yeah, and that you don't have a chance. You don't really have an opportunity in that moment to get it taken over because you get like we were standing outside like the back of like a venue, and they were like coming out and like jumping on their bus and stuff, and like
Right.
we
Was it
had.
Myrtle Beach? Was it the same one?
Oh yeah, I think it was actually, yeah, because like yeah, I think we just went around to the back after. I think I kind of got in a little bit of trouble with security because I was like, I think I had a CD, and I was trying to get everybody to sign it, and I got a little overzealous maybe, and kind of got in the way a little bit too much, and I had a security guy who's like, no, 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 and I was like, okay, sorry, but I mean, I was really fanboying out, and but yeah, we had a chance to kind of snap a picture, had somebody do it, and it's just in a flash, just like happens in a second or whatever. You can't redo it or anything. It's like they're gone after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I got a picture. Another time we were at a concert, and we noticed that that Dave Bryson was hanging
Hmm.
out. Dan Vickery was hanging out outside, and we went up and I would talk to him for a minute, and he snapped a quick picture of me with him.
And that was just a couple of years ago, right?
That wasn't too long ago. Yeah, I think that was probably in the, I don't know, it might have still been like in the 2010s or something. It was probably a little while back.
That's neat, though. You've gotten pretty close to them.
Yeah. And you know, we're gonna see them again. They're touring. They've toured pretty much every year since '93, or since we started seeing them in '95, early '96, or whatever. And we've seen them just about every tour. Sometimes more than once on a tour, but all told, I think it's around 30 times we've seen them in concert, right?
Yeah, I've lost track. That's crazy. I lost track. Yeah.
I mean, they're all the concerts are like you said, they don't play the same set. They don't play this, you know, there's certain songs, of course, that they have to play every show, you know, or they kind of get, you know, criticized by the fans. Real fans don't care what you play, though. Real fans want you to play what, like, you're feeling in the moment. Stuff, you know, I don't want to be a fan that goes to a show and like yells out a song, you know, like there's definitely songs that I want to hear from them in concert, but I don't want them to play something that they don't want to play because, you know, I mean, they're just not going to put as much energy into it, I think. But they have very energetic sets still. They've been touring for 30 years. They sound great. And they've just released some new music, which is incredible because they hadn't released, well, you know, let me take that back. So they did release in 2021. So it's been 4 years since they released any music. They released basically the first half of this album because what's coming out, they have an album coming out this May, and it's called Miracle, the complete suites. They released like the first 4 songs of that album in 2021, and now they're coming back and they've got 5 more songs back onto it. So it's great. And you know, before that, it's a much longer gap. Like starting in '93, they were putting out new music, or at least some kind of album, you know, every 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years, but 8 like really original albums. They've done like 4 live albums and a best of album. But before the Butter Miracle stuff started coming out, the last new music they put out was 2014. So 2014 to 2021. That's a pretty long gap.
Yeah.
That's a desert, a real desert, you know, for Counting Crows fans. Like we were going through some withdrawal. And then we got those 4 new songs, and now 5 new songs coming out, and they've released 2 of them. And I think they sound great on them. I think it's you know, it's an interesting album. It's called Butter Miracle, and from what I know about it, those first 4 songs, or at least a good portion of them, Adam had written. Adam Duritz, lead singer, songwriter, frontman for the band. He'd gone over and visited a friend's farm, like just outside of London, and was kind of inspired, I guess. Like during the time, he was like, it was interesting because he was like cooking and stuff. He was just like cooking videos and stuff on Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then he also like, God, you know, he kind of got inspired to write like his first music that he'd written in some years. And I guess that's where the name Butter Miracle comes from. You know, maybe there's something about, you know, maybe, I don't know if it was a dairy farm or something like that, but
he was out there churning butter and the lyrics came to him.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a nod to like, maybe he likes to cook with a lot of butter or something. I don't know.
My gosh,
maybe
right.
Maybe some recipe or something struck him or whatever. I don't know where it came from, but the album art's a little bit confusing. It's like, you know, it's very yellow. It's got like a picture of a woman in a yellow dress, but her head is obscured by like a buttered piece of toast or something like that. It's really odd looking. But yeah, no, he was inspired to write these songs, and I guess we're going to hear the rest of it. It's kind of like it's almost like an opera in a sort in some ways, or, you know, at least it's an anthology. It's like
songs that are basically all telling like part of the same story, which is interesting because at least I expect that's what the second part will be. I've only got two songs from it, but the first four were kind of linear, like narrative storytelling, and it centered around really like a band, and in particular like a frontman, like a singer, like a Adam Duritz type character named Bobby, and he had a band called Bobby and the Rat Kings, and it was kind of a like self-reflection. Like he's like sort of like maybe, you know, hadn't been out for a while. He's, you know, maybe he's still making music, but you know, like I think the band's kind of gone their separate ways, it seems like. And he's sort of reflecting on like his career and his life and everything like that. And he's starting to plan like a reunion of the band. And all this is sort of happening at the same time that he has this like daughter he doesn't know about, who maybe just learns of who he is and sets out to find him and maybe make a connection with him. So those first four songs are kind of really about that. You know, we've got a song that's called, you know, it titled Bobby and the Rat Kings, which is the name of this band. A song, you know, like it, and it's told in progression because like the first song is really about, you know, that moment. Like he's like on a farm, maybe himself. It's called Tall Grass, and he's sort of reflecting on things. And then it goes back in time, and you hear a song called Elevator Boots, which is really sort of peppy, and it's kind of about the heyday of the band when they're all touring and they're really popular, and you know the fans are all always asking for more and stuff, and you know they feel like they've got elevator boots on, like they're on the rise, and then Angel of 14th is the song where we're sort of introduced to this daughter that he doesn't know he has. And then, you know, you watch the music videos filmed by like a filmmaker, an actor friend of his, Clifton Collins Jr. And you watch the videos and you see that sort of story play out as well, too. You see the daughter show up, I think, in the music video for Bobby and the Rat Kings. And they're like doing, the band is reunited and they're recording a song. And, you know, people are kind of hanging out in this like house, like that's maybe been made into a studio. And so we'll see what happens, I guess, with the second half of this album when it comes out. But we got a taste of it.
Yeah.
We got two new songs. And the first one I don't think is going to probably be played on the radio very much. It's not really a radio song. They'd probably have to bleep a lot of it out. We can play it here, though.
But it's really good, though. They just, they'll just bleep it out a lot. It's a really good song.
Yeah, no, the first song that came out is called Spaceman in Tulsa. And the chorus goes a little something like... Because when you're a rock and roll star, you can do whatever you want. And, you know, they're kind of leaning into that, I think, in these later years. They're just like, what the hell, you know? They're just, what the fuck?
Can he insert a different word in there to make it radio friendly?
I don't know. I don't know if they'll do a radio play for that. I don't know if they really even care to do that.
It's catchy.
They've been on the radio a lot. They're a band that's like fortunate, I think, to have been sort of heavily played on the radio. All their singles have been... If you're not a Counting Crows fan, you've heard Counting Crows on the radio because they still play them on the radio. And of course, we're in heavy rotation in the 90s and through the early 2000s and stuff. So I feel like maybe they have had their time on the radio, and maybe they don't really care to get on the radio all that much anymore. But the second song in this album, of course, is a little more tame in terms of the lyrics, but also, you know, and also, you know, just softer. And the title for that is Under the Aurora, and that just came out here recently. But they're kind of releasing these songs piecemeal as they get ready to ramp up with for the summer tour that they're doing with the Gaslight Anthem. So we're really excited to see them live again, and I know we're going to be talking about that again after we do in June. But this is just a chance for us to kind of tell you a little bit about our story with the band and everything. And of course, as you know, I've discussed on, you know, the earlier episodes of this podcast, the band was a real inspiration for this podcast and for the title of the podcast, of course, which is Every.Thing.After, which is based on that first album. But Chris, it's been great talking with you about the band, reminiscing, kind of going back in time
it's
and
been
remembering
fun.
some of these stories. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I still love with a vengeance the idea that I could be the one to change. And every spell I said to reanimate the dead could somehow all now be neatly tucked away. But I don't mind tonight. The alignment is right. Hi, I'm Scott Paris. I'm a singer-songwriter of 20 years going on, and my ETA, my Every.Thing.After, is my new book, A Guitar Called Harry V and the Cover Band Conundrum. I took a year to write it. It was written in real time in 2024, but it gave me a chance to reflect on everything after 20 years of writing and performing and trying to chase my dream. So it's a perfect thing for the Every.Thing.After show. That I've got a book that talks about what I did after chasing it, chasing the dragon, chasing the dream, and getting really, really close and being very, very satisfied in a job well done, or at least the attempt to finish the mission. And here we are. I'm living my Every.Thing.After right now.